afternoon, everyone. We are the fifth group and we are here to talk about the mental self. Ano nga ba ang mental self? Why does it matter? And how can we care for ourselves and others? Let's talk about the objectives of this lesson. In this lesson, we will be able to, first, acquire deep understanding of core concepts of adolescent cognition and thinking. Second, understanding of learning and thinking, which potentially can result in a more effective participation in the day-to-day and professional activities. And last, appreciate the complexity of themselves as a learner and a thinker. Thoughts exist on the surface, while deeper beliefs, desires, values, and goals drives us. Beliefs are our conviction without proof, and values reflect what we consider essential. These are formed in childhood. Goals give us direction, originating from surface thoughts and logic. Spiritual connection enhances our mental capacity for balanced choices. Overemphasis on the mental self can hinder relationship and cause excessive worry. Awareness of our mental self is crucial for a complete human experience, working in harmony with our physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects. So, this passage talks about how the mind works and what truly influences our actions, decisions, and overall life. It explains that there is a bit difference between surface-level thoughts and deeper mental structures like beliefs or what we think is true, desires or the things that we want, values, those that are important to us, and our goals or the things that we aim for. This means that the things we think about every day, our quick thoughts, worries, and ideas, are only on the surface level of our mind. The mind is powerful, but it should not control everything. Thoughts are only a small part of who we are. Our deeper beliefs, values, and desires guide our lives. And this comes from childhood and personal experiences. A balanced self leads to better decisions, healthier relationships, and a more meaningful life. So now, let's move on to the definition of the mental self. The mental self refers to the aspect of a person that involves their thoughts, feelings, memories, beliefs, and perceptions. Essentially, the mind that shapes how one understood themselves and the world. It represents our inner mental processes and consciousness that define who we are beyond our physical form. So, based on the text, yung mental self, ito raw yung mga internal processes ng isang tao na nakakatulong sa kanila na intindihin who they are or kung paano ba nila na-view yung mga tao sa paligid nila or yung mismong environment and yung mundo. Una, yung thoughts or yung mga ideas and interpretations that constantly run through our mind. These thoughts influence how we make decisions and how we react to situations. Second, our feelings are part of the mental self because they affect how we think and how we behave. So basically, these two, our thoughts and our feelings, are connected with each other. Because scientifically speaking, for example, if we keep on degrading ourselves or nagkakaroon tayo ng negative thoughts and feelings sa mga tao sa paligid natin o dun sa mga bagay na nangyayari within our environment and our world, naapektuhan nito yung limbic system, especially the amygdala. It creates a signal and becomes active, creating feelings like sadness, hopelessness, and stress. So over time, yung mga sad thoughts na naiisip natin can create habitual responses like isolating, procrastinating, making safe but limiting decisions. So natututunan ng brain yung mga patterns na to and they repeats them automatically. Next is yung memories. Our memories are also important. The experiences we remember from childhood to the present shape our personality and influences our actions. Next are beliefs. We also have the beliefs, which are the things we think are true, even without solid proof. Beliefs guide our choices and affect how we relate to others. Lastly is yung perceptions natin, or how we interpret what we see, hear, and experience. Two people can experience the same event but perceive it differently because of their mental self. Overall, the mental self represents our consciousness, the inner world that defines who we are beyond our physical appearance. It is the part of us that thinks, feels, remembers, and understands. Without the mental self, we would not be able to truly know ourselves or make sense of life.
According to Glore 1997 and Rockland 2000, the brain is both reactive and directive. Reactive dahil mabilis siyang mag-respond sa environment, and directive because it gives commands to the rest of the body. Scientists discovered na ang brain ay may three major regions: the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. The forebrain is usually the farthest forward or sa bandang harap. The midbrain is located in the middle, and the hindbrain is found near the back of the neck.
Forebrain is the region of the brain located towards the top and part of the brain. It comprises the cerebral cortex, basal ganglia, the limbic system, the thalamus, and the hypothalamus. It is primarily related to higher level cognitive processes, complex behaviors, and basic drives. Forebrain considered as the most advanced and largest part of the brain. And it takes control each of part of the brain, and every single part relies on the forebrain structure to function, because forebrain does the thinking, learning, and emotions for the human and higher rational purposes.
And now, let us proceed to the cerebral cortex. It is the outer layer of the cerebral hemispheres. It plays a vital role on our thinking and other mental processes. The cerebral cortex is the outer layer of the brain, and it is responsible for important mental functions. It helps us think, make decisions, learn, remember, and understand information. It's the part of the brain that allows us to process complex thoughts and act intelligently.
Basal ganglia. So the basal ganglia are a collection of neurons crucial to motor functions. Dysfunction of the basal ganglia can result in motor deficit. So meaning nito is, yung basal ganglia, ito yung parte ng utak natin kung saan tumutulong to para makagalaw tayo ng maayos at matuto tayo ng mga gawain. Kapag hindi naman to gumagana ng tama, baka mahirapan tayong kontrolin yung mga galaw natin.
Limbic system. Ang limbic system ay yung parang control tower ng ating feelings and memories. As we can see, nasa bandang loob ang limbic system ng cerebral cortex, which is the thinking brain. There are instances na kahit alam mo sa isip mo na walang danger or kinakabahan ka kahit wala namang dahilan, at iba pa rin ang nararamdaman ng puso mo, it is the limbic system reacting. Ito ang fundamentally responsible para sa ating emotional life, memory formation, at survival instincts na nagsisilbing tulay sa pagitan ng ating primitive drives, such as our most basic unconscious instincts for survival and pleasure, at ng ating mas mataas na rational thought processes. Napakahalaga ng parte na ito ng utak natin para sa mabilisang pag-evaluate ng ating surrounding, para sa potential threats o kaya naman ay rewards. Kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng automatic at immediate responses tulad ng fight or flight reaction, which is a psychological reaction na nagpe-prepare sa katawan natin to either confront or escape from a perceived threat. Bukod sa safety, ang limbic system ang nagpo-process at nagre-regulate ng mga emotions like happiness, takot, galit, at pleasure. Kaya yung limbic system din ang nagtutulak sa ating motivation drives at arousal. Ang role nito sa pag-integrate ng emotional experience kasama ang sensory input ang dahilan kung bakit nagiging meaningful yung mga memories natin. Kaya natin clearly naaalala ang mga event na may kasamang strong emotions. Katulad ng bigla mong naamoy perfume niya out of nowhere tapos yes. Moreover, ang limbic system ang nagdidictate kung paano tayo nakakaramdam, nakakaalala at nagre-react sa paligid natin. At may mga components ang limbic system. Let's start with the less commonly discussed component, which is the septum, or more accurately, the septal nuclei. This small area na located malapit sa harap ng thalamus is often referred to as a pleasure center. Ito ay ang Grand Central Terminal o ang main relay station ng ating emotional signals. Kasi ito ang nagko-connect sa mga primitive parts ng ating utak tulad ng amygdala at sa ating higher function na cerebral cortex. Ang function nito ay magbigay ng reward and reinforcement. Kaya nga tinawag na pleasure center. Ang septal nuclei ang nagbibigay sa atin ng feeling na pat on the back internally or yung satisfaction at contentment na nararamdaman natin pagtapos gumawa ng isang bagay na beneficial or enjoyable. For instance, after nating ma-accomplish ang sandamakmak na pendings, yung feeling of relief and accomplishment na nararamdaman natin ay dahil sa septum. Ito rin yung dahilan kung bakit paulit-ulit natin ginagawa ang mga bagay na nagbibigay sa atin ng pleasure. Like pagkain ng favorite mo or successfully achieving a goal at marami pang iba na nagkukos ng pleasure sa atin. Bukod pa rito, involved din ang septum sa emotional regulation at arousal. Kaya ito rin ang tumutulong na i-control ang mga autonomic responses natin. Parang yung biglang pagbilis ng tibok ng puso o pagpapawis na kasabay ng matinding emotion na para bang airbog na siya.
Alam mo na, enga ka na. Wala tayong ma-o-orpap, enga ka na. Airbog ka na. Airbog ka na. Ember ka na, would you like it with my doggy? Alam mo na, enga ka na. Wala tayong ma-o-orpap, enga ka na. Airbog ka na. Airbog ka na. Airbog ka na, would you like it with my orpap?
So, yeah. Yung septum ay ang internal reward system na nagpapatuloy sa ating motivation at nagpapafeel sa atin ng good feelings na nagtutulak sa ating positive behaviors. Next na component ng limbic system ay ang amygdala, which is ito yung almond-shaped at one for each brain hemisphere. Yung amygdala ay matiituring na personal alarm system ng ating brain. Ito yung pinakakilalang center para sa fear at threat processing. Ang primary job nito ay ang mabilisang pag-scan ng ating surroundings at i-assess kung may potential danger ba. Kapag may nakita itong banta, kahit minor lang tulad ng biglang ingay o mabilis na anino, ito ang instantaneous na sisigaw ng danger. So like pag namalikmata ka na may anino, i-register ng amygdala ng multo yun kaya makakaramdam ka ng takot. Kapag biglang bumilis yung tibok ng puso mo at nag-rush ang adrenaline sa katawan dahil sa jump scare o munti ka ng masagasaan, ang amygdala ang responsible rito. Bukod pa sa fear, critical din ang amygdala para sa emotional learning at memory. Para tong tagging system na nilalagyan ng matinding emotions at may significance sa ating mga karanasan. Na siyang dahilan kung bakit ang mga vivid at traumatic memories ay sobrang hirap kalimutan. Dito na pumapasok yung sobrang hirap mong makamove on sa certain situation. Katulad ng pag naka-experience ka ng love bombing at ghosting. Since nasanay na yung system mo na lagi kayong magkausap, lagi kayong naglalandian, tapos all of a sudden, maglalaho na lang na parang bula kaya parang nahang ka or nabitin. Yung amygdala yung nag-trigger sa ganong emotions kasi you were traumatized kaya nag-hold ng impact sa emotion natin yung mga memories. That's why nahihirapan tayong mag-let go. So, sa madaling salita, ang amygdala ang nagtitiyak na matuto tayo mula sa ating emotional experiences upang maiwasan ang panganib sa hinaharap. Kaya ito ang pinaka-vital sa ating survival.
According to Icon Bomb 1997, Square 1992, hippocampus plays a role in memory formation that is essential for flexible learning and for seeing the relation among items learned and as well as spatial memory. The hippocampus is also part of the limbic system. It is responsible for one's learning and memories. In other words, it can also determine as the input process output storage, where you learn new kinds of things and process them and integrate them to your whole life. For example, learning how to dribble a ball and practicing how to do it properly. Then, sumali ka ng liga and then having that core memory of you practicing how to dribble or learning how to dribble while naglalaro ka dun sa laban, magagawa mo siya kasi nga meron kang memory or nandun pa rin yung memory nung pagpapractice mo.
Thalamus. The thalamus relays incoming sensory information through groups of neurons that project the appropriate region in the cortex. Most of the sensory input into the brain passes through the thalamus, which is approximately in the center of the brain at about eye level. So, yung thalamus, ito naman yung parte ng utak natin na para siyang operator ng telephone or yung cellphone. Kasi nga, kinukuha nito yung mga mensahe galing sa ating mga pandama, tulad nga nung pagtingin, paghawak, tapos pinapadala naman nito yung tamang parte sa utak para maintindihan natin.
The next part of the limbic system that we are going to talk about is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus regulates behavior related to species survival, like fighting, feeding, fleeing, and mating. It is also active in regulating emotions and reactions to stress, according to Masbury in 2003. So, ang hypothalamus is a small structure deep inside our brain under the thalamus. Even though it's small, it connects to many other brain areas and to the body's hormone system. So it can control both behavior and bodily states. So basically, our hypothalamus is a small but hugely important brain region na nakakatulong sa ating makontrol those behaviors that keeps us alive. Specifically, fighting, feeding, fleeing, and mating. And it plays a key role in emotional responses and how the body reacts to stress. It works closely with the limbic system, which is the brain involved in emotion, memory, and motivation. Now, first, let's talk about the list of categories in the hypothalamus na nakakatulong to regulate the survival instinct or behavior ng isang species. First is fighting. Nakakatulong ang hypothalamus to trigger defensive or aggressive responses when an animal or person perceives a threat. It helps coordinate the body's readiness to confront danger. For example, increased heart rate. Next on the list is feeding. Minomonitor nito ang internal signals like blood sugar, hormones, and stomach fullness to regulate hunger and thirst. Third on the list is fleeing. When danger is detected, the hypothalamus helps activate the sympathetic nervous system and stress hormones that prepares the body to run or escape. For example, faster breathing. And the last on the list is mating. The hypothalamus also influences sexual behavior and reproductive physiology. For example, hormone cycles or sexual motivation by controlling hormone signal to the reproductive system. Nakakatulong din ang hypothalamus in maintaining emotions and stress regulation because the hypothalamus is active during the emotional experiences and helps produce the body changes that go with emotions. So, bakit nga ba importante ang hypothalamus sa ating brain and to our body? Because central ito ng understanding hunger disorders, stress-related illnesses, emotional dysregulation, sexual or reproductive problems, and aggressive behavior. It's also why emotional states feels physical, like butterflies in the stomach or your heart racing. Because the hypothalamus turns emotional processes into bodily responses.
The next one is the midbrain. It helps us to control eye movement and coordination. The midbrain is more important on non-mammals, where it is the main source of control for visual and auditory information. On the other hand, these functions are dominated by the forebrain. The midbrain helps control eye movement and coordination. It also processes visual and auditory information. In many animals, the midbrain is the main center of these functions, but in humans, these tasks are mostly handled by the forebrain.
Now let's talk about the hindbrain, which is composed of medulla oblongata, the pons, and the cerebellum. The medulla oblongata controls heartbeat, breathing, swallowing, and digestion. Basically, siya ang nagmamanage ng vital life functions. The pons serves as a bridge that connects different parts of the brain. Kasama rin siya sa facial expression and sleep regulation. The cerebellum is responsible for balance, posture, and coordination of movement. In short, the hindbrain is essential for survival and for making sure na stable and coordinated ang body functions natin.
Concentration and focusing of mental effort, attention is both selective and shifting. Attention has information filtering where you only focus on what you want to focus on and dismiss anything else or anything that might disturb you. Memory, on the other hand, store those moments at time that you were present and focused on. And because you were attentive in that moment, everything else is blurry, but that one moment is not. For example, nag-review ka sa major and minor. Then, you put your whole attention doon sa major, then onti lang doon sa minor. So, ang mangyayari dun sa na-review mo sa minor is magbe-blur siya or magpe-fade away siya unti-unti kasi nga, hindi mo naman siya binigyan ng focus. And, yung sa major mo, yun yung maaalala mo or yun yung mas aangat doon sa memory mo kasi nagput ka ng attention or pinut mo yung whole attention mo doon.
Executive functioning includes a set of high-level cognitive skills that allow us to manage and process information. Kasama dito ang decision-making, reasoning, critical thinking, creativity, problem-solving, and metacognition. These skills help us analyze information, make good decisions, and understand ourselves better. Executive functions are very important, especially sa adolescents, because dito lumalabas ang higher order thinking abilities that help us become more independent thinkers.
Now, decision making. Adolescence is a time of increased decision making, which friends to choose, which person to date, whether to have sex or go to college, and so on. Adolescents are more likely to generate different options, examine a situation from a variety of perspectives, anticipate the consequences of decisions, and consider the credibility of the resources. During adolescence, we start facing more important decisions like choosing friends, deciding what path to take in school, or how to handle personal situations. At this stage, teens become better at thinking of different options, looking at situations from various perspectives, predicting possible outcomes, and checking if their sources of information are reliable. In short, adolescence is a time when our decision-making skills grow because we begin handling more choices and responsibilities.
Reasoning. Reasoning is a logical thinking that uses induction and deduction to reach a conclusion, whereas inductive reasoning involves reasoning from the specific to general ideas. On the other hand, deductive reasoning is from general to specific. So, yung reasoning, ito naman yung paggamit ng utak para mag-isip ng logical at gumawa ng mga desisyon base sa mga katotohanan.
Now let's talk about critical thinking. Critical thinking is thinking reflectively and productively and evaluating evidences. Adolescence is an important transitional period in the development of the critical thinking. So first, ano nga ba talaga ang critical thinking? Basically, it's our ability to reflect on our thoughts, come up with meaningful ideas, and more importantly, evaluate evidence. In short, it's about thinking deeply, thinking smart, and not just accepting things right away. Bakit important stage or period ang adolescence for this? Because according to Keating in 1990, adolescence is a period where our brain is leveling up. This is the stage where a lot of cognitive changes happen that makes us better at analyzing, questioning, and understanding things. Among the cognitive changes that allow improved critical thinking during this stage or period are the following. First, increased speed, automaticity, and capacity for information processing, which frees cognition resources for other purposes. As teenagers, our brains start to process information more quickly. Things we used to take a long time on, like reading, solving simple problems, becomes automatic. And because this basic task feels easier, we suddenly have extra brain power to focus on deeper things like understanding the bigger picture, evaluating ideas, or thinking about why something is happening. So basically, it's about less effort on small tasks and more energy for deeper thinking. Second, greater breadth for content knowledge in variety of domains. By this stage, we're learning more things from science, math, history, English, pretty much everywhere. This bigger knowledge base help us connect ideas better. For example, you might understand the science issue better because you learned something related in social studies, or you can explain a topic better because you've seen it in a different context. So, the more we know, the better we think. Third, increased ability to construct new combination of knowledge. Another thing that develops in adolescence is their ability to combine concepts in new ways, like using math to explain something in economics, or using psychology to understand the character in a novel. We start to realize that ideas don't exist separately, they connect, and this ability to combine ideas is a huge part of critical thinking. Last, a greater range and more spontaneous use of strategies and procedures for obtaining and applying knowledge. Lastly, teenagers gets better at choosing the right strategy without needing someone to tell them. For example, you automatically highlight important parts while reading, or you compare two pieces of information without being asked, or you question the accuracy of something you see online. These strategies helps us understand things more deeply, and we start doing them naturally. To sum it all up, critical thinking improves a lot during adolescence because our brain becomes more faster, more knowledgeable, more creative in connecting ideas, and more strategic in how it learns. So this is the stage of our life is really important in shaping the way we think, decide, and understand the world around us.
Ang creative thinking ay hindi lang talent na pang-artist or about artistry, and in fact, ang malaking misconception tungkol sa creative thinking ay ang pag-iisip na exclusive lang ito para sa mga taong magaling mag-drawing, mag-compose ng kanta, or umarte sa stage. Sa totoo lang, ang creative thinking ay hindi isang talent lang, kundi isang skill set. Isang way of processing information and solving problems na pwedeng matutunan at i-develop ng lahat kahit pa hindi ka marunong mag-drawing na maganda. Ito yung kakayahan nating tumingin sa isang problem at mag-generate ng mga unique solutions na hindi agad maiisip ng iba, or not in an ordinary way to generate ideas. Creative thinking is more than about being artistic dahil nakaugat ito sa divergent thinking, which means we are bound to explore many possible answers rather than sticking to one ordinary and plain solution. So, for example, when you are asked kung ano ang uses ng paperclip, some of us would automatically answer to hold papers together, since ayun nga ang main reason bakit ito na-imbento. Ito yung tinatawag na convergent thinking. Dito, ang brain natin ay nagpo-focus lang sa iisang tamang sagot, ang most logical at accepted use ng object. Parang nakalak ang isip natin sa iisang function lang, which is what we call inside-the-box mindset. Pero, ang challenge sa creative thinking ay ang divergent thinking. Dito naman, kailangan natin maging creative at hindi lang mag-focus sa isang tamang sagot dahil in fact, there are so many possible uses of paper clips dahil pwede itong gamiting zipper, lockpick, SIM ejector, bookmark, and so much more. Natetest dito ang pag-generate natin ng unique ideas regarding one problem. Kaya tinawag ding outside of the box thinking, wherein wala sa choices or options yung sagot dahil you could generate more than what is presented. Dahil dito, mahalagang maintindihan natin na creativity and intelligence are not the same thing. Kahit maraming highly creative students na matatalino, hindi ibig sabihin na ang lahat ng intelligent students ay creative din. Kaya naman, isa sa essential goals ng modern education ay tulungan ang mga adolescents na maging creative dahil vital ito sa innovation at complex problem solving. And here are some good strategies for accomplishing this goal. So yung una, kailangan nating turuan ng mga kabataan na huwag maging judgmental from the start. Kapag may problemang kailangan solusyonan, dapat ang goal ay quantity muna, hindi quality. Kailangan nilang matutunan ang rule of deferred judgment. Ibig sabihin, bawal munang kumontra, bawal tumawa at bawal mag-critic sa idea ng iba. Yung pangalawa, hindi lang sa classroom o sa library nangyayari ang creative connections. Ang utak natin ay na-stimulate kapag may bagong sensory input o bagong perspective. Kung palagi tayong nasa parehong pader o tupuan, iisa lang ang inputs natin. So, kailangan natin silang ilabas. Moving on to the third strategy, so tayong mga adults, especially nasa college na tayo, minsan sobra tayong hands-on. Gusto natin sundin ng mga bata ang exact steps na iniisip nating tama. Pero, ang creativity ay nangangailangan ng freedom at autonomy para mag-explore, magkamali at matuto sa sariling paraan. Ang micromanagement ay pumapatay sa genuine exploration. Kunyari, yung kapatid mo may project sa science na gumawa ng solar power toy car. Instead na bigyan mo sila ng step-by-step manual, binigyan mo lang sila ng kung ano yung gagawin at resources tulad ng motor, engine, solar panel, and cardboard. Kung nag-fail sila at hindi umandar ang gulong sa simula, mas matututo sila sa pag-iiba ng wire connections kaysa sa kung sinabi mo na agad yung tamang wiring. Ang saya ng discovery ay mas malaki dahil sarili nilang solusyon ang nahanap nila, which fuels creative thinking even more. Fourth one, ang pinakamalakas na fuel ng creativity ay ang passion at curiosity. Yung gusto mong gawin ang isang bagay dahil interested ka at hindi lang para sa grade or reward. Kapag internally motivated ka, mas persistent ka at hindi ka madaling sumuko kahit mag-fail ka ng ilang beses. So, kailangan hanapin nila ang joy of discovery sa kanilang ginagawa. Lastly, kailangan makita ng mga kabataan na ang creative thinking ay valued at viable sa real world. Hindi lang mga famous artists and creative, kundi pati ang mga everyday innovators na gumagamit ng creative thinking para solusyonan ang problema. Moreover, ang creative thinking ay isang critical skill na mas malawak kaysa sa pagiging artistic lang, dahil ito ay divergent thinking, which is ang kakayahan nating mag-generate ng maraming unique na solusyon instead na mag-focus sa ordinary answer. In essence, ito ang pag-iisip or outside the box na nagpapatunay na creativity and intelligence are not the same thing. Kaya, vital goal ng modern education ang pag-develop nito sa mga kabataan sa pamagitan ng pag-alis ng judgment, pagpapakita ng stimulating environments, pagbigay ng autonomy, pag-encourage ng internal motivation at pagpapakilala sa mga creative role models. Kaya ang creative thinking ang key sa innovation at survival sa modern world.
Metacognition. Cognitive psychologists refer to the metacognition. Cognitive psychologists refer to the process of thinking about one's own thought processes as cognition about cognition or knowing about knowing. Metacognition is increasingly recognized as an important cognitive skill not only during adolescence but also in emerging adulthood. In other words, metacognition is only specific to being aware of your self-thinking and analyzing of what you can do. Recent research has highlighted the role of metacognition among the college student. According to Cardell Elawar, 1992, metacognitive skills have been taught to students to help them solve math problems. In each of 30 daily lessons involving verbal math problems, a teacher guided low-achieving students in learning involving math or verbal math. They did not know the meaning of the word, did not have the necessary information to solve a problem, did not know how to subdivide a problem into specific steps, or did not know how to carry out a computation. After completing these lessons, the student who had received the metacognitive training had better math achievement and better attitude towards the math.
Self-regulatory learning. Self-regulatory learning is the self-generation and self-monitoring of one's thought, feelings, and behaviors in order to reach goals. The goals might be academic or they might be socio-emotional. So, meaning naman netong self-regulatory, ito naman yung kakayahan natin kontrolin yung mga sarili natin. Kagaya na nga sa pag-aaral, yung pamamagitan ng pagtakda ng mga layunin, pag-control ng ating mga damdamin. Isa na rin yung pagsusuri ng isang progress sa mga ginawa natin.
First, let us talk about surface learning. Surface learning happens when a student focuses mainly on memorizing facts without understanding their deeper meaning. This often results in short-term learning. For example, a student memorizes terms for an exam but forgets them right after the test because the concepts were not truly understood. On the other hand, deep learning involves a more meaningful approach. Here, The student aims to understand ideas, connections, and implications. This leads to better comprehension and longer retention. For example, a student studies a concept not only by reading the definition but by understanding how it works and where it can be applied.
According to Dr. Howard Gardner, there isn't just one way to be smart. He proposed the theory of multiple intelligences, suggesting that intelligence isn't a single uniform ability, but rather a collection of 8 distinct yet interconnected types. The core idea is that everyone possesses all 8 of these intelligence, but we each have them in different strengths, like a unique fingerprint. This difference in strength is crucial because it dictates how we prefer to learn and process information. Simply put, people learn best when the teaching method matches or utilizes their strongest intelligences. Let's delve into each of these 8 types, exploring what they mean and how they manifest in people's learning in daily lives. First, we have visual spatial intelligence. People who are strong in this area are brilliant at visualizing things and understanding the relationship between objects in space. Sila yung mga taong magaling magbasa ng maps or mag-navigate ng directions, mga magagaling sa puzzles involving many medias, and many more. Their strength lies in their visual and spatial judgment, meaning they can easily picture things in their mind and manipulate those images. Think of an architect designing a building or a sailor navigating a ship. They both rely heavily on this ability. Next is linguistic verbal intelligence, which is all about the masterful use of words, both in speaking and writing. Individuals strong here are natural storytellers, persuasive speakers, and avid readers. They have an excellent capacity for memorizing information through language, and they often enjoy word games or debates. Yung mga journalist, manunula, or a poet, news anchor, lawyers, or public speakers would be excellent examples of people who utilize this intelligence daily. The third is logical mathematical intelligence. Sila naman yung mga taong why and how thinkers. They are adept at reasoning, spotting patterns, and logically analyzing problems. They don't just memorize formulas. They think conceptually about numbers, relationships, and cause and effect. So, logic would be the key word for this type of intelligence. They might enjoy complex math problems or strategizing a game of chess. A scientist, chemist, physicist, mathematician, or computer programmer all rely heavily on this systematic way of thinking. Following this is bodily kinesthetic intelligence. This is the intelligence of movement, action, and physical control. People with high bodily kinesthetic intelligence are often called learners by doing. They have fantastic hand-eye coordination and dexterity. They learn best when they use their hands and body. Think of a surgeon performing a delicate operation, an athlete executing a complex move, or a craft person creating pottery. Their physical mastery is a direct manifestation of this intelligence. Next is musical intelligence. This goes beyond just liking music. It involves a deep understanding and appreciation for patterns, rhythms, and sounds. People strong here can often easily recognize pitch, tone, and rhythm, and they may be skilled at musical composition or performance. Even people who can just easily remember a song's tune or detect when a note is off-key are showing signs of this intelligence. The sixth type is interpersonal intelligence, which is the ability to understand and interact effectively with other people. These individuals are often called people persons. They are highly skilled at assessing the emotions, motivations, desires, and intentions of those around them. They make excellent leaders, teachers, and counselors because they can connect and empathize well with others. They are sensitive to the moods and feelings of groups. Close to this but different is intrapersonal intelligence. This is the capacity for self-awareness. Individuals strong in this are excellent at understanding their own emotional states, feelings, and motivations. They enjoy self-reflection and analysis, spending time to think about their personal strengths, weaknesses, and goals. They are often quiet, reflective, and knows exactly what makes them tick. A philosopher or a person deeply committed to personal journaling demonstrates high interpersonal intelligence. Finally, we have naturalistic intelligence, which is the most recent addition to Gardner's list. People high in this intelligence are highly in tune with nature and the environment.
They have a knack for nurturing, exploring the natural world, and learning about other species. They are highly aware of even subtle changes to their environment, such as weather patterns or changes in plant life. A botanist, park ranger, or farmer would be using this intelligence to their advantage. Recognizing our individual intelligence profile is a powerful tool for improving how we learn, work, and interact with the world. So, Dr. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences proposes that there are 8 distinct types of intelligence, ranging from visual, spatial, to naturalistic. Every individual is unique because we each possess these intelligence in varying strength. There is no single way to be smart. Kaya naman, it is vital to recognize our own strongest intelligence because this is the key to learning more effectively and excelling in our daily life and career.
Let me introduce you Sternberg triarchic. Robert Sternberg developed the triarchic theory of intelligence, which states that intelligence comes from 3 forms. Analytic intelligence, which refers to the ability to analyze, judge, evaluate, compare, and contrast. And next is the creative intelligence, which consists of the ability to create, design, and invent, originate, and imagine. And last is the practical intelligence, which involves the ability to use, apply, implement, and put ideas into practice. According to Robert Sternberg, intelligence is not just about being good at schoolwork. Instead, he says it has 3 parts, which is the first one is analytic intelligence. This is our ability to analyze and evaluate things. It includes skills like comparing, contrasting, solving problems, and making judgments. This is the type of intelligence often tested in school. The second one is the creative intelligence. This is our ability to think outside of the box. It involves imagining new ideas, designing, creating, and inventing. People with strong creative intelligence come up with original and unique solutions. And lastly, but not the least, is the practical intelligence. This is our ability to apply what we know in real-life situations. It's about being street smart, knowing how to put ideas into action, and solve everyday problems.
This theory describes how people differ in the way they think, solve problems, and manage tasks. Parent different thinking styles. It compares the mind to a government, with different branches that reflect how we prefer to operate. People with a legislative style love creating, designing, and inventing. They enjoy independence and like coming up with their own ways of doing things. For example, a person na gumagawa ng unique layout sa project kahit walang template. While people with executive style like following clear instructions and guidelines. They feel comfortable with structure, rules, and step-by-step tasks. Mas gusto nila ng may checklist, ganon. Next, people with judicial style prefers to analyze, judge, and evaluate things. They like comparing ideas and determining which is best. Sa monarchic style naman is people focuses on one task at a time, pouring all energy into it. Super concentrated sila when working. Ito yung mga taong hindi maka-multitask. Next is hierarchic style. People with this style can handle many tasks at once, but they set clear priorities. Alam nila which task gets the most time and effort. For example, you're a student na mas prefer unahin yung presentation before yung review for a quiz and then yung assignment naman. And next, oligarchic style. Multitaskers din sila but unlike the hierarchic type, Oligarchic thinkers struggle with choosing priorities. They want to do many things at the same time, but find it hard to decide what to do first. Overwhelmed sila sa dami ng deadlines, hindi na nila alam yung ano ba yung uunahin.
Anarchic likes to take a random approach to problems, dislikes systems, guidelines, and politically all constraints. For example, you decided na mag-paint. Pero hindi mo alam yung pinipaint mo, wala ka ding pina-follow na something. Just nagpipaint ka lang, parang drawing-drawingan sa kindergarten. And also example of it is your intrusive thoughts. Kasi syempre, hindi natin alam yung ginagawa natin. Or, gawa lang tayo ng gawa. And sige lang tayo ng sige. In the end pala, may consequence din yun. So, magulo siya kasi wala tayong control over anything. Global likes to deal with the big picture generalities. For example, you idolize a celebrity just because she's beautiful and talented. But yung personality niya is hindi maganda. What I want to say is, doon ka lang nag-focus sa pagiging maganda niya and talented, and hindi mo tinignan or hindi ka nag-look forward doon sa kung anong personality meron siya. Local likes to deal with details, specific concrete examples. For example, meron kang upcoming exam and hindi ka makakapag-review without the pointers. Internal likes to work along focus, inward, be self-sufficient. For example, meron kang family problem and even though hindi mo na kaya yung emotion mo, you just keep it to yourself. While external likes to work with others, focus outward, be interdependent. Yung family problem or yung emotion na nararamdaman mo is nilabas mo sa friend mo. Kasi, ang internal, you just keep it to yourself, while the external, you keep it with others. Liberal likes to do things in new ways, defy conventions. Instead of following the traditional way or thinking, you just love to explore everything and create a new ideas or new things to do on your own. Conservative likes to do things tried and true ways, follow conventions. And this one naman is you follow traditional ways, traditional thinking, and kung ano yung sa tingin mong tama kasi nga nasubukan or na-experience na ng iba or ng nakakatanda sa'yo. Best example of it is yung pagiging relihiyoso.
Now, let's talk about adolescence egocentrism, which is a part of social cognition. Adolescence egocentrism is the heightened self-consciousness of adolescents, which is reflected in their belief that others are interested in them as they are themselves, and in their sense of personal uniqueness and invulnerability. So, ano nga ba talagang egocentrism? So, ito yung stage or period during the teenage years of those young people when they become especially self-conscious. They often feel like everyone is watching them and that their own thoughts and feelings are unique and very important. This is a normal developmental tendency and is a part of learning who you are. David Elkind in 1976 argues that adolescents' egocentrism can be dissected into two types of social thinking. First is the imaginary audience. The imaginary audience refers to the aspect of adolescents' egocentrism that involves attention-getting behavior, the attempt to be noticed, visible, and on stage. So, ano ang meaning nito? Teenagers often imagine that other people are paying a lot of attention to them, to their clothes, hair, makeup, mistakes, or expressions. And paano ba nila ito pinapakita? Napapakita nila ito sometimes by trying to stand out, worrying a lot about being embarrassed, or always checking on to their appearance, or acting all attention-seeking, like posting a lot on social media or dressing up to be noticed. And paano nga ba ito nangyayari? So, Cognitive development give teens the ability to think about other people's thoughts, or yung tinatawag nilang metacognition. But they don't yet have the full perspective-taking skills, so they overestimate how much others notice them. For example, iniisip ng isang student na everyone in the class will remember a one slip up, kaya ina-avoid na lang nila na mag-participate for a fear of humiliation. Second is personal fable. It refers to the aspect of adolescent's egocentrism that involves an adolescent's sense of personal uniqueness and invulnerability. Adolescent's sense of personal uniqueness makes them feel like no one can understand how they feel. So ano ba yung meaning nito? Teens believe that their experiences, feelings, and problems are totally unique. Like, iniisip nila na wala namang nakakaintindi sa akin. And because of that, they develop a sense of invulnerability. For example, maraming bad things na mangyayari sa akin. Paano ba nila ito napapakita? Nagsasabi sila ng mga statement like, hindi mo naman yun maiintindihan. Or yung paggamit ng pinagbabawal na gamot or yung substance use. Because they feel immune, strong dramatic experience of feeling misunderstood. And bakit nga ba ito nangyayari? Teenagers are forming identity, testing boundaries, believing they're unique, helps create a sense of specialness and autonomy. Example nito is if a teen experience a heartbreak, iniisip na nila na wala nang ibang nakaka-experience nun or nung nararamdaman nila except sa kanila lang. So, bakit important na malaman yung dalawang types ng social thinking na to? Kasi, sa relationship, imaginary audience can make things anxious in social situations. And sa personal fable naman, it can make them withdraw or take risky actions. Kaya naapektuhan nito both friendship, family, interactions, and trust.
Next, adolescents' perspective taking. Researchers have found that changes in the perspective taking, the ability to assume another person's perspective and understand his or her thoughts and feelings, are likely involved in development of adolescents' egocentrism. So, meaning neto is yung adolescents' perspective taking, ito naman yung pagsubok ng mga teenager na tingnan yung mga bagay-bagay mula sa pananaw ng ibang tao na tumutulong sa kanila or sa atin para maunawaan at makisama sa iba. Isa na rin dito yung pag-intindi sa pananaw ng iba ay nakakatulong siya sa mga kagaya natin na teenager na mas ilalanin yung sarili natin at mas maging maganda ang relasyon natin sa mga ibang tao. So, sa madaling salita, kapag naiintindihan mo ang iniisip at nararamdaman ng iba, mas nauunawaan mo rin ang sarili mo at mas magiging close sa iyo ng mga kaibigan mo.